Today we're diving into this really powerful story from the book Happy Path, and it's all about a huge locomotive and two little pennies. Now it sounds simple, I know, but trust me, hidden inside this story is this incredible lesson about momentum, about the tiny obstacles that can secretly stop our biggest goals, and really the surprising power of just getting a clean start.
So picture this. You're standing next to a giant, hissing steam locomotive, and the engineer looks at you and says, "That. 2 pennies? Enough to stop this absolute monster of a machine? It sounds impossible, right?" Well, that's the puzzle we're going to unpack today, and believe me, the answer has everything to do with our own lives.
So, the story kicks off with a bunch of young boys who are just completely captivated by this locomotive sitting on the tracks. They're just staring at it, totally in awe of its sheer power and strength. You can almost feel the energy just humming off of it.
Yeah, to them, this thing wasn't just a pile of metal, it was alive. It was this force of nature that, once it got going, everything and everyone had to get out of its way. It was the very definition of an unstoppable force.
So you can imagine, when the engineer, probably with a little smile, tells them he has something in his pocket that can stop this beast in its tracks, the boys are like, no way. I mean, what could you possibly have in your pocket that could stand up to all that power?
Let's just pause on that for a second. What would you guess? Some kind of secret, high-tech brake? A special tool? The whole idea is just baffling. This massive, powerful machine versus whatever's in his pocket.
And then, the big reveal. He reaches into his pocket, pulls out a couple of coins, and just picks out two. 2 plain, old, ordinary pennies. That's it. That's his secret weapon. And the boys, of course, they think he's got to be joking.
"Then show us!" That's what they say. They challenge him. And so the engineer decides, all right, let's put this incredible claim to the test. And what follows is one of the coolest demonstrations of physics and life you'll ever hear about.
So here's how it goes down. First, he takes the 2 pennies and puts them on the rails tight against the front wheels. No gap at all. He opens the throttle, the engine groans and strains, and nothing happens. The wheels just spin. But then, he moves the pennies just a quarter of an inch away. Just that tiny little gap. He tries again, and the locomotive just leaps forward, completely crushing the pennies like they weren't even there.
And this first part is just mind-blowing. With zero momentum, with absolutely no space to build up even an ounce of its power, this mighty train was totally helpless. It was stopped cold by 2 pennies.
I mean, really think about that. A quarter of an inch. That tiny little bit of space was all the train needed to build just enough momentum to unleash its full, incredible power. It's just amazing how the smallest margin made all the difference.
Now, this is a fantastic story about a train, for sure. But, as the author of Happy Path explains, it's not actually about physics. It's a really powerful metaphor for our own lives, our ambitions, and all those little hidden things that stop us before we can even get started. The story really makes you think about this question, doesn't it? Once we have momentum, once a habit is rolling, it's like that train at full speed. It's incredibly hard to stop. But when we're just starting out, even the smallest bad habit can keep us from ever leaving the station.
And here it is. This is the whole point. The pennies represent those small, seemingly harmless things we allow. The little excuses, the minor distractions, those tiny bad habits. They don't look like much, but if you place them right at the beginning, they can stop your progress completely.
So this brings the whole lesson right back to us. And it forces us to ask a really important question. What are the pennies on your track? What are those small, harmless-looking habits that are actually keeping you from getting started?
These pennies that get in the way of our long-term growth, they usually show up in a few common forms. First, you've got the "I'll start tomorrow" penny. That's the little but that kills every good intention. Then there's the "just 5 more minutes of scrolling" penny. That small distraction we let completely derail our focus. And the third one, which might be the sneakiest, is the "it doesn't really matter this one time" penny. That tiny compromise that keeps us from ever getting a clean, powerful start.
This slide just sums it all up perfectly. It's not about how big the obstacle is. It's about your momentum when you hit it. If you're standing still, a penny is a wall. But if you're already moving, you can smash through things that are way, way bigger. Okay, so knowing all this, what do we actually do about it? How do we make sure we're the moving locomotive and not the one that's just stuck spinning its wheels? Well, the solution is actually pretty simple.
This is the key lesson. This is the whole thing. The engineer didn't add more power to the train. He just cleared the track. He created the space for a pure, clean start, and that is exactly what we need to do for ourselves.
So, the game plan is really a simple 3-step process. First, you got to identify your pennies. Be honest with yourself. What are the little excuses and distractions? Second, and this is crucial, you have to remove them before you try to start. Don't try to power through them. And third, once that path is clear, you go. You build that powerful, unstoppable momentum.
And this is why this story is so important. We always think we need more willpower, right? More steam, a bigger engine. But what the locomotive teaches us is a much simpler, way more effective strategy. Just clear the pennies off the track first.
So I'll leave you with this question from Happy Path. What small, seemingly insignificant pennies are right up against your wheel, keeping you from moving forward? Because identifying them, that's the first real step to becoming truly unstoppable.